Pub quiz time. Pub quiz time.
Hello, welcome to the Political Pub for day 2. I'm joined here by Anas Sarwar, the leader of Scottish Labour. A year ago, Anas's party won a lot of seats in Scotland.
37.
37, thank you. They broke the dominance of the SNP for the first time in years. And people started to wonder, maybe, just maybe, you could become the next First Minister of Scotland. I seem to remember a little-known outlet called Politico ran a piece that described you as the next King of Scotland.
Yay!
But here we are, a year on.
Strong endorsement from the First Minister of Wales right there.
But here we are, 1 year on, and you're third in the polls. Everything's going wrong at UK level. And it looks like you might not even become the official opposition in May's elections next year. What happened?
I love the positivity and the enthusiasm of the question. Look, I've been the underdog for 4 years. Ever since I took on this job, people have said, one, we couldn't survive. Second, that we couldn't get ourselves back into second place. Third, that we couldn't win a general election in Scotland. And fourth, we couldn't win a by-election in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse. And now saying that we can't win an election next year. At every single turn since I've been doing this job, we have proven the pollsters and the pundits wrong, and we have gone on to win. And I'm absolutely confident that if we make the right arguments, with hard work, energy, enthusiasm and a positive message for a new direction in Scotland, I'm confident we will win next year.
Do things need to change in Scottish Labour for you to get there?
Scottish Labour is doing brilliantly. It is unified, it is hungry, it is determined, it's the best organised it's ever been, it's the most resourced it's ever been, it's the most driven it's ever been, and it's desperate to win next year. So do we need change in Scotland? Absolutely we do, but that change can only come about from a Scottish Labour Party that wins an election next year. And if the choice next year is about what's best for Scotland and what's right to improve the lives of Scotland, we'll win that election. Because one of the things that often gets lost is if you think about the things that touch you and your family on a day-to-day basis and who's responsible for them, actually the responsibility for that lies with the Scottish Government, not with the UK Government. So if you think about your National Health Service, your local school, your college, your university, the apprenticeship schemes, local policing, housing, local services, all of the responsibility of the SNP Scottish Government, none of them the responsibility of a UK Government. So if you want to see a meaningful change in those areas, then we need a new direction next year, and ultimately only Scottish Labour can beat the SNP. Reform can create the noise, only Scottish Labour can beat them.
That's all fair and true about the responsibility for things in Scotland lying with the Scottish Government. But at the same time, as Keir Starmer has become more unpopular in Scotland, and for anyone not aware, there was a poll over the weekend which had him as less popular than Donald Trump in Scotland. It still seems that whatever Keir Starmer does has an impact on you and drives
Keir
you down.
Starmer's not standing to be First Minister, I am.
No, but
The election next
it
year,
impacts you.
the election next year doesn't change a UK Labour government, doesn't decide who the Prime Minister is. The election next year can change the Scottish Government and decides who the First Minister is. And in that contest, the choice is a straight one. It's either going to be John Swinney, who's been around since I was at school, still in charge for a third decade, or it's going to be a new direction with Scottish Labour. It's going to be more of the same, managed decline, can't-do attitude, always looking for somebody else to blame, or a new direction, change, and actually meeting the ambitions of people in Scotland. And I'm confident if that's the choice and that's the election campaign, that will win.
So in that vein, are you looking for Keir Starmer to stay away and leave the campaign to you?
Keir Starmer's got an important job to do, and number 10, he's got an important job to do as Prime Minister. Of course, he'll play a part in our campaign, but I will be leading our campaign. I'll be at the forefront of our campaign. I'm the candidate. I'm the person that's going to be on the ballot paper.
And he should
I'm the
stay
person
in
that
Downing Street,
aspires
is what I'm
to
hearing.
be First Minister. So it's a straight choice between me and John Swinney.
You say it's a straight choice between you and John Swinney, but Reform have surged into, second place. They did quite well in the Hamilton Larkhall by-election.
They came third, we won.
They did, but they came a pretty strong third, having, Farage's vehicles have never made much impact in Scotland before. What's different this time? Why are they now a threat, both to you and to the SNP?
So the only threat that Reform are in the Scottish election next year is that they can be the vehicle that helps keep the SNP in power. They can't win the election. Nigel Farage can't be First Minister, thank God. Reform can't win the election, but they can help the SNP win the election. And for so many people that are tempted by Reform, one of the reasons why they're tempted by Reform is because they don't think government works for them. They're not happy with the level of services that they have in Scotland. They feel as if they're paying more and more and getting less and less in return. So the answer to that is not to keep the SNP in power. The answer to that is to get rid of the SNP. And the only people that can do that is the Scottish Labour Party. And again, if you look at the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election example, people were predicting we were going to come third. No doubt it was a difficult by-election for us. But if you actually look at what happened in that campaign, one, it's the biggest gap I've ever seen in my life of what's happening on the ground in any campaign and what the national messaging and media reporting is. Secondly, people did have a frustration, but their frustration primarily was with the Scottish government rather than with the UK government. And third, if you look at the style of that campaign, I think it's a preview of what's going to happen next year. Reform are going to try and create the noise, try and divide us, try and do a plague on all your houses kind of approach.
Yeah.
Let's see if they carry on the kind of campaign they did in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse, which was utterly rejected and probably horrified lots of people across the country. What did John Swinney and the SNP do? They didn't fight the by-election on their record. They're not planning on fighting the election next year on their record, and who can blame them? They tried to make the by-election about Reform and actually deliberately and cynically tried to push people into the arms of Reform for their own party political interests rather than taking on the arguments that Reform have outlaid. And now they want to talk about independence, not because they think they're going to win a majority. They know they're not going to win a majority. It's purely a distraction from their record all over again. And what did Labour do? We ran the most impressive ground campaign we've ever done, the most intricate and detailed digital campaign we've ever ran, and we focus on the issues that matter to people. And I'm really, genuinely, really confident that if we do the same again next year, we'll win the election next year. I am absolutely determined to do it. I'm happy and looking forward to handing out all the humble pies again to all the journalists and the pollsters in Scotland, like we did after the Hamilton and Stonehouse by-election. We literally handed out humble pies, and the pie budget is going to be high come the election next year to hand out those humble pies again.
If Reform are basically campaigning on this, plague on all your houses, as you say, and trying to tap into the fact that politicians are just really, really unpopular across Scotland and the UK, and the SNP are also basically doing the same and, pointing at Farage and saying, do you want that or do you want independence? How do you tackle that? That's a tricky position for Scottish Labour. You're caught in the middle of this.
I actually think the opposite. Because what John Swinney, but again, if you look at we can obsess about the polls, and I'm not playing down the polls, but if you look at when voters have actually had to vote rather than when people have had to tick a box on a web page, the outcomes have been very different. So look at the Barrhead Council by-election, which was just a few weeks ago. The Labour vote actually doubled. The SNP vote fell by a third, and Reform were within less than 100 votes of the SNP, I believe, which was a significant result for us in an area that's never, in recent times, been a real option for us or a real prospect for us. But let's be clear about what we're trying to do next year. There has only in the entire history of devolution been a change of government once, and that's when the SNP came to power in 2007. We are trying to do something that's only happened once before since devolution started with the first government, and that is to change the government. It's the first opportunity to change a government in Scotland for almost 20 years. It's a big ask, but one I'm absolutely confident we'll do and get over the line next year.
Given the arithmetic of actually getting over the line in Holyrood, are you prepared to rule out today that you would do any kind of deal with Reform to become First Minister?
Yes, and look, the obvious answer to that one is Nigel Farage thinks I'm the enemy. Nigel Farage thinks that I'm someone that's not loyal to my country. He wants to question my identity. He probably would question whether I'm even put my country, Scotland, first. That's what they did in the by-election. In the by-election, they said that my priority would be to prioritise Pakistan than it would be to prioritise Scotland. I was born in Scotland. My kids are brought up in Scotland. I'm as Scottish as anybody else. I'll always obviously be more Scottish than Nigel Farage will ever be. But I'll tell you what, I am more representative of British values as well than Nigel Farage will ever be. And that's why Scotland rejected him. Scotland will reject him next year, and I'm confident the UK will reject him come the next general election as well. So, of course, we're not going to do any deals. We are going to seek to form a minority Scottish Labour government. I think it's pretty obvious that no party is going to win a majority. We will seek to form a minority Scottish Labour government, and we will work with individual parties and individual MSPs on individual issues to try and make progress in our great country.
Reform MSPs?
Look, no. So Reform, we're not going to do a deal. We're not going to work with Reform. And I actually think Reform's not going to perform as well in that election as people are predicting. If you look at the constituency base in Scotland, 73 constituencies, Reform can't win any of them. Labour and the SNP are competitive with each other in the vast majority of them, and then the rest of them are either SNP Lib Dem contests or SNP Tory contests. I think we're one seat where it's ourselves and the Tories, another seat where it's ourselves and Liberal Democrats. We have got to make sure we're winning those constituency seats. Reform will be competing on the lists in terms of getting those seats, but if we win the constituency seats, the list seats that we're taking will be from the SNP and the Tories rather than from us.
I could talk to you about Scotland all day, but I think
Why don't you?
my bosses would maybe kill me if I didn't ask you any questions about the things going on at conference here. Andy Burnham, one of your MSPs actually told him to shut up yesterday. Do you agree? Should he shut up?
Look, Andy Burnham is an important Labour voice. He's someone that we need as a key Labour voice. But the people of Manchester need him. He's doing a great job for the people of Greater Manchester. And in actual fact, and for those that are journalists in Scotland, they will know I reference Andy quite a lot when I'm talking about what's happening within Scotland, because one of the great lessons I think from mayors like Andy or mayors like Sadiq or Tracy or Steve, other mayors across other parts of the country, is they have done regional democracy really, really well. And they have got results in their regions that outperform the results that the Scottish Government's got in Scotland. Even though they have fewer levers, fewer economic resources, they have managed to get better impact and better outcomes for people in their regions. If we could regionalise our democracy within Scotland and regionalise our delivery in Scotland, I think we would get better results for the people of Glasgow, better results for people of Edinburgh, better results for the North East, the South of Scotland and the Highlands and Islands. So there's a positive model there about what Andy's done in Greater Manchester that I think it's an important lesson for all of us. Debates about other things at Westminster I think are just usual political tittle-tattle that happens at party conferences. We've instead got to get much better at telling our Labour story, demonstrating the successes we've had, eliminating and correcting things that might be going wrong, and focusing on making lives better for people in every part of the country.
Yeah, so on that last point on, correcting and eliminating things that have went wrong, what would you like to see more of from Keir Starmer on this?
So I think one of the things, different people have different personalities, and I think it's unfair to expect everyone to be the kind of identikit politician that people would want them to be. So, for example, I think it's pretty safe to say I'm probably a bit more chilled out. I'll happily be put a tune on, dance a wee jig for you around the pub. That's not going to be Keir Starmer's style. Different kind of background, different style. But I think what people want to see is an authentic Labour case being made and an authentic Labour difference being made tangibly to people across the country. And there are tangible Labour stories to be told. I've already referenced at this conference the fact that the average wage is up £1,800, the average mortgage is down £1,500, the new deal for working people, the record investment in our public services, ending austerity once and for all, the £10 billion deal for shipbuilding on the Clyde, the largest export deal in the history of shipbuilding in the UK. They are just a few examples, but we have got to tell that story in a much more Labour way and demonstrate that we're in a fighting spirit. And I think Keir's shown that already in the last couple of days at conference, but we need to continue to show that every single day, that we're hungry, that we're determined, that we're improving people's lives, and that we're going to take on the fight against the parties like Reform and indeed the SNP who want to divide our communities rather than pull them together.
And given what you've said about Reform here today, were you pleased to see Keir Starmer, go for it on Sunday and call their indefinite leave to remain policy racist?
Well, I think we've got to call things out for what they are,
and we've got
to be. Well, yes. I mean, talking about mass deporting people who have made their life and their livelihoods and their homes here is utterly ridiculous. Do we need to have controls on migration? Absolutely. Do we need to limit and stop illegal migration? Absolutely. But if we're suggesting that 432,000 of our fellow citizens who are contributing to our economy should somehow be bungled into planes and deported to other parts of the world, then that is not a serious approach and someone that just wants to divide us. I think I called Nigel Farage yesterday a pathetic, poisonous little man. I think I'm being kind, to be honest. This is a guy that is not interested in the ideas. He's not interested in fixing our country. He sees a problem and thinks, how can I find another community to blame for that problem in order to get more support for myself and to get into government, rather than seeing a problem and thinking, how am I going to fix it? The man's not the answer. He's a chancer. He's a spiv. He's a spinner. And look at the contrast. He wants to have a go at me. When I was working in our NHS in the most deprived community in Scotland, he was on what he himself would describe as the Brussels gravy train. While I'm fighting to protect our NHS, this is a guy that's previously advocated to privatise our NHS. While I'm trying to bring our country together, he's trying to pit community against each other. He's a charlatan, he's a chameleon, and he'll be absolutely found out. And I've got no doubt about it at all that people across the UK will reject him.
We're going to do a couple of quick fire.
Was that negative enough about Nigel Farage? I'm thinking
just to get you in a more positive.
I'm not sure I was. I'm not sure I was harsh enough on Nigel there.
And then I think we have time for a couple of questions from the
yeah,
audience
no problem.
as well.
I was told this is going to be a light-hearted interview.
I don't know who told you that. Kind of covered this, but Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham?
What about them?
Who do you prefer?
Keir Starmer is a fantastic Prime Minister and Andy Burnham is a fantastic Mayor of Greater Manchester.
You can't dodge this next one.
We need all our best people on the pitch making the case for Labour, by the way. I think it's really important to stress that.
Next Deputy First Minister, Russell Finlay or Willie Rennie?
Neither, Jackie Bailey.
Russell Martin, stick or twist?
Somebody actually made a joke to me yesterday saying Russell Martin should get some advice from us. He's 9 points behind. We've been worse than 9 points behind and came back to win, but I'm sure even we couldn't pull off that Houdini trick.
Sorry, you didn't answer that one.
The Aberdeen fan in the audience probably wants us Rangers to keep Russell Martin, but I'm not sure the Rangers fans feel that way.
And you're one of them, aren't you?
No, I watch cricket. See when you grow up in the west of Scotland, and people ask you whether you're a Rangers or Celtic fan, my answer has always been that I am from Pakistani origin. I watch cricket. And then I get asked, okay, what kind of, and then they ask about faith, and you say, I'm Muslim, and they say, okay, are you a Catholic Muslim or a Protestant Muslim, to try and figure out which side of the divide you're on. But I've always said, and this will maintain my line, that I will stick to the cricket and let other people worry about the football.
It's probably wise. Got time for a couple from the audience? Yes. Anyone? Hands? Yep. I recognise a Scottish journalist and a fellow Andrew.
Andrew Quinn from the
Is it the ginger?
Scotsman.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Anas, you said yesterday that full-time Scots couples are $5,000 better off under Labour government. Do you actually believe that the public are $5,000 better off than 14 months ago? Because I'm pretty sure they don't think that.
No, what I said was that the average wage in the country has gone up by £1,800. And the average mortgage in the country has gone down by £1,500. And so if you are a full-time working couple on the average income and you have a mortgage, you could be £5,000 better off under a Labour government. The facts are the facts. But we aren't telling that story. And that's the other point I'm making, is why aren't we telling that story? Why aren't there Labour politicians standing up every single day, or when on the media, when they're rightly pressed about the cost of living crisis, making the case that under the Tories, your mortgages went up by almost £2,000, and under a Labour government in 15 months, mortgages have come down by £1,500. Why aren't there Labour politicians, whenever they're on the TV or whenever on the stage, when they're asked about, rightly about the cost of living crisis, making the case that for the first time, wages are rising higher than prices? And so the average wage in the country is £1,800 higher. Why aren't we telling that positive Labour story and making that case? So yes, I accept there's lots more work to do around bringing down the cost, bringing down interest rates further, bringing down mortgages further, improving wages further, challenging all the massive issues we have around energy bills, for example. So yes, we've got to confront those challenges, but why aren't we telling our positive Labour story? What are we shy about? If we're not going to tell the story, is somebody else going to tell it for us? Are we going to wait for the Daily Telegraph to tell the story for us, or Nigel Farage to tell the story for us? If we as Labour people aren't going to tell our Labour story, the public aren't going to hear it. So I'm not going to be shy about telling that Labour story. Fact, under a Labour government, the average mortgage is £1,500 lower. Fact, under a Labour government, the average wage is £1,800 higher after just 15 months. That is Labour progress, and that is Labour in action, and it wouldn't be possible if the Tories were still in power.
Time for one more? Yep. Connor?
Thanks. Connor Match from the Scottish Sun. Anas, you described Nigel Farage's mass deportation policy as racist. I'm going to quote from Politico this morning, which basically says that Shabana Mahmood's policy is also effectively a deportation policy. Do you think that are you comfortable with that, where UK Labour is on migration? Are you comfortable with the idea of telling, friends and family who've been here for years that they need to go litter picking in order to stay in Scotland?
Look, what we're going to hear from she may well be speaking as we're on stage now, but I think we've got to be really clear about what Nigel Farage is proposing and what a UK Labour government is trying to do to fix our immigration system. What Nigel Farage is proposing is a mass deportation scheme that is designed to break up communities, break up families, and actually he knows won't work, but is deliberately using it as a way of again creating that difference and trying to pit community against community. On the other hand, what a UK Labour government is trying to do is to fix a broken immigration system. And let me give you a practical example of that, Conor. I once got accused by someone, I won't name which politician it was, because I think they will probably regret making the attack they did. When I said that it was right that we reduce net migration when net migration peaked at 1 million, and someone said that he was betraying his ancestors because his family came here as migrants and he wants to lift the drawbridge for other migrant families in a similar situation. You know what net migration was the year my grandfather moved to the UK in the mid-1940s? Net migration was 25,000. At the peak of the Tories, net migration was 1 million. So we have got to accept we inherited a broken immigration system. We have got to reduce net migration. We have got to confront illegal migration, but we've also got to have a migration system that works and a migration system that brings together skills as well as our immigration system, and of course takes into account our welfare system too. That's what UK Labour government is trying to fix. That's what Shabana Mahmood is setting out as Home Secretary, and that's what the Prime Minister was contrasting when he made reference to the racist approach of Nigel Farage.
All right, I believe that is all we have time for. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Coming
Thank
to the
you.
pub. I'm sorry
Enjoy
there's no
the political
quiz.
pub. Is it all free bar drinks, is it?
It is. It is a free bar all day, open till 10.
Fantastic. You done the sales
Nine,
pitch?
something
Done the sales pitch?
And coming up next, we have the Welsh First Minister. So I hope you'll stick around for that.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anas.